Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Jakarta Tech Talk. My name is Serena, and joining us today is Otavio Santana, who will be presenting on the topic of unleashing the power of Jakarta Data, exploring API-driven data access for relational and NoSQL databases. If you have any questions for Otavio as we move through today's presentation, feel free to ask them in the chat or click on the Ask a Questions tab. Without any further delay, Otavio, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Serena. Muito obrigado. Hello, everyone. So, Gregor from Austria. Please, first, before start, tell me where you're from or where you're based. For example, right now, I'm from Brazil, but I'm living in Portugal. So, I'm the most famous city in Portugal, Leiria. Okay, I'm creating. But anyway, today I will talk about NoSQL. Of course. Okay, San Miguel living in Canada. That's nice, Eclipse Foundation. And the idea is to say and explain a simple way to enable the polyglot past tense. Okay, glad that everybody is here. So let's explore a little bit during this presentation. Every time that I talk about Jakarta NoSQL, we need to understand first what is NoSQL and why we care about NoSQL database. Briefly speaking, right now we do have a huge amount of NoSQL database, over 300 NoSQL database, and those are the most famous ones. So we do have column family or wide column. The implementation most famous that we do have right now is Cassandra. Then we do have graph database, where the most famous one is Neo4j. Then we go to document with MongoDB, and finally key value with Redis. As you can see here, every single NoSQL database has a specific structure. For example, let me show to you. The key value looks like exactly a map in Java. I do have a key, and then I will return a value. Okay, then I have the column family or wide column, where it looks like the key value. The exception is, instead of I do have a huge blob like key value, I put my information in small piece that we call column. And that's why, by the way, it's column family. We do have a huge collection of columns there. Then document, where the structure looks like a JSON or XML file. And finally, graph, where the main idea is exactly to do recommendations for you. So the structure looks like a graph where I do have several relationships. With relational database, I have just three options: one-to-one, one-to-many, and many-to-many, and a single direction. With the graph database, first, I do have two directions. For example, I know Ramon and Ramon knows me, right? But it's not totally true to everybody. For example, okay, I know everybody here, sorry, but I don't know somebody, and maybe somebody knows me. It's happened, right? For example, I know who is Cristiano Ronaldo. However, Cristiano Ronaldo has no idea who I am. So it has a single direction. And that's why we do have graph database, mostly to relationships. Okay. And based on that, the market has increased a lot around database, polyglot persistence, NoSQL database, and we designed the Eclipse JNoSQL, where the main goal is to make easier for you to integrate Java with NoSQL database. This application, this framework, is based on two specifications in Jakarta Data and Jakarta NoSQL, where I will explain a little bit both. And that's the structure inside the framework. So I do have my entity where I'm gonna use my annotations. Based on that annotation, it will happen a mapping process, then a communication through a database, or each NoSQL database that I do have support, I have a single API. So one API to column, one API to document, one API to key value, and finally one API to graph. So we do have common annotations to multiple APIs, able to do extensions, especially because NoSQL has a lot of particular behaviors that matter to us. And we build several single APIs. However, with Graph, we decided to reuse Apache Tinkerpop instead of have a single one, or instead of create another one. So I do have my Eclipse GenoSQL framework here, and based on that, I can integrate with column family, graph, document, and key value. The Jakarta data, I will explain a little bit, but by the way, who is familiar with Jakarta data? The idea is to have a single repository and base, oh, okay, nice. Based on this repository, I can integrate with several database engine. For example, I do have my business layer as any kind of architecture application structure. Based on that, I will have my data access layer where I don't care where this data comes from because I will have my interface, and this interface will integrate with whatever I want. So if I want to integrate with SQL, relational database, it's fine. If I want to integrate with NoSQL database, it's fine as well. And finally, if I don't care or I cannot integrate with both SQL and NoSQL, I can use, if I wish, web service as well. So it's fine to you to use. And for your application, we have no idea. And that is exactly the motivation behind Eclipse JNoSQL. So as you can see here, I have 4 different NoSQL APIs, and those APIs are doing this exactly same thing. So I have my ArongDB, I have MongoDB, I have Couchbase, and I have OrientDB, where each one is doing create a new class, a document class, to finally append or include a new information. And the information is a tuple where I have my name and my information itself. So ArongDB with name value, MongoDB with name value, Couchbase with name value, and finally OrientDB with name value. The whole point here is I'm doing the same thing. I want to reach the same goal, however, with different APIs. The motivation here is why not use a single one instead of have multiples? And that's exactly what we're working right now. So instead of I need to learn several APIs, I able to understand just one, and based on that, I can apply to every single document type database. In the specification words, we usually talk about, okay, Otavio, but why not? Hello. It's easy to switch between NoSQL database. Yes, it is easy because of that. But let's face it, we hardly ever we switch between NoSQL database on production, right? We hardly ever do a migration. But think about the cognitive loads. So if I'm using OrientDB and decide to move on to ArongDB, I don't need to learn anything else. I can use ArongDB right now because I know the syntax, I know the import, I know everything that I need to do. The same thing happened with MongoDB, the same thing happened with Couchbase, and so on. So that is the main motivation behind Eclipse GenoSQL under implementing 2 specifications, Jakarta NoSQL and Jakarta Data. But of course, today I will focus more on Jakarta NoSQL and with Eclipse GenoSQL. So far, so good. Is there any questions? So please let me know if there are some questions. If not, I will move ahead. So right now, I will move to my application here, where I will run. Let me show my Docker Compose. Let me presentation mode. So hopefully right now we are able to see better my application. So what's my goal? What I want to achieve here? I will create a single application, the simplest as possible with Java SE. And then based on that, I will integrate with multiple APIs. So I do have my MongoDB, RonDB, and Couchbase. It's a common configuration here. And based on that, I will run my single application. Okay. To make it possible, I will include in my imports a couple of dependencies. So it's running on Maven. So it's Maven, but of course, Otavio, can I use Gradle? Yes, go for it. The Eclipse Genocico has three minimal requirements. The first one is it needs CDI implementation, like Weld, Open Beans. The second one is JSONP to run and processing JSON information. The third one is Eclipse microprofile configuration to explore the idea of the 12-factor application. Okay, so Eclipse NoSQL has three minimum requirements: JSON binding to read the JSON, uh, CDI, so dependency injection, and finally the microprofile configuration. As you can see here, it's a sample. I do have a couple of configurations here. So this one here is mandatory. So the document that I'm gonna use. So in this case, I will handle with Pokemons, the host to Couchbase, that information here to Couchbase, this information here to MongoDB, and this information here to our MongoDB. Of course, a you we usually have one single database in a single application. We don't need to put that in our application. I will use that because I will run those applications. So I have my app here. And what I will gonna do, I will create my Pokemon entity and then do several interaction with that. So I will come here. I will create my Pokemon. I have option here. So if I want to create an immutable entity, I can use record. It is fine. But remember, if you go through this way, you're not able to change the state. It does not belong to Java itself, but it just belongs to the Java specification. Oh, sorry. It does not belong to Jakarta NoSQL or Eclipse JNoSQL, but to the Java specification itself. Okay? So just to show that I can, I will use records. Hopefully you are familiar with this feature. So if you're using it later than Java 17, you are able to use. And I will create first my three fields. So my ID, my name as a string, and finally the location. Done. Finally, I do have my Pokemon. I will come here to my application where I have my faker that I will create some Pokemons. So I will come here again to my Pokemon and I will create based on faker. So public static Pokemon off almost copilot. Thank you for that. Faker. And then what I'm gonna do, I will take faker Pokemon. One thing that I can do is to oops, no you. I can take here and return as var. And based on that, I will create my Pokemon. So I come here, and then I will return new Pokemon, UUID, random to string. Then, okay, thank you. So I did a random UUID, and then a Pokemon name, and then my Pokemon location. Done. So right now, I do have my Pokemon ready to use. So I come here, I will return to my app. I will show to you my application running. My container here is running. Right now, I'm able to show something. So it's running for a while right now. So 3 hours ago. Yes, as usual, any live code you need to try in practice every day. Oh yes, it's intelligent assistance. So my Pokemon, my faker, my container. So what I need to do right now is I need to return here to my Pokemon. I have my fields. I'm able to create several Pokemon. So let's return here. So I will do my for each. So I come here to define index. I will come here. I will, oh, that is it that I'm supposed to do. So I will take my Pokemon here. I will insert. And to make it possible, what I do need to do, I need to have an interface, an integration between Pokemon, my entity, and also my database. So my first step is to have this template here. And of course, I need to use annotations. So I will return here to my Pokemon. And then I will define my Pokemon as an entity. Then define each field will be the ID. And finally, each field will be persistable. So each field I will use to persist information in my database. To make it easier, it's super intuitive. So I come here, I will use entity to define the Pokemon as an entity, the ID to define as an ID, and column to define as a column. So column, column, column. Don't use dark theme, thanks. Yes, for presentation, Carl, is a nightmare using dark themes. I know that feeling. So I do have my entity here. I have my application running. I will return to, I need to come here to files, to microprofile. So what I do have here, I have my Pokemons, I have my configuration, and here I do have a couple providers. Yes, Gregory. For presentation, what I do use is this white theme, and outside presentation, I mean coding. Normally, I you use dark themes, exactly like you were saying. Returning, I have my providers here. If I only have one, it is not required to do something like this because it will load by service SPI. But once I have a multiple, I need to define each one I will use. As you can see here, I have with MongoDB, I have with Couchbase, and I have with MongoDB. So I will start with the MongoDB one here. So I have my template. The template is my interface that does the communication. And what I will do here is I will do with document template. So the template is the one, the initial one, and then I do have a couple of specializations. So template to the basic operation NoSQL database, and then I move to each NoSQL type has one single specialization as template. So document template, column template, graph template, and key value template. Today I will cover only, of course, the document template. Hey Otavio, but how about I have particular behavior that I want to use? For example, for me, it makes sense to use a let me see, uh, particular behaviors of a MongoDB, particular behavior of Couchbase, or particular behavior of MongoDB. So, of course, you do have the option to create specializations or use those specializations. Or in this case, template, the more generic document template to document operations, and more specializations on MongoDB template that is implements that is specialization from document template. Okay. So what I did here, so I did insertion. I will also do the select, but not this way they promoting. So what I'm gonna do is almost that, assistant. Thank you for try. Pokemon, okay. Of course, it won't work right now. And I will explain the why, the reason. So I will do a select by Pokemon, and then I will return my result. And based on these results, I will put it. Okay, thank you. So right now, of what I'm doing, I will run my integration with MongoDB, then run the query to return everything. So I'll come here, I will run, and hopefully it will work. So it's worked. But let's go to the database, right? Database. I will come here. Let's do a refresh. And let's, okay, query console. So I will come here. I will use my Pokemons and then select uh, a particular Pokemon. So I will come here to Pokemon. So I will run. And as you can see, those informations are on my MongoDB database. Okay, I put my whole information inside my MongoDB. Okay, Otavio, but how about another ones? So because you mentioned a MongoDB, you mentioned Couchbase, how can I make it possible? So what I need to do is to come here on micro files. I will hide the MongoDB and then show a MongoDB. And of course, run it again. So I come here, run it again. So it's run. Then I need to go to my no files. Come on, readme. Uh, I will show this briefly, but I do have my UI here that I will show for you. So what you can do is basically we can. Okay, not able to see. 1 second. Let's return here. Please be patient with me because I should learn how to use Mac. Uh, so I'm here around DB query. This one here is UI. As you can hear, I do have Pokemons here. I have an analyzer. I can do queries here. So for doc, return in Pokemon, return doc. Then I will execute. And as you can see, the query is not SQL. However, my application, my Eclipse Genocico implementation will translate and do the basic operation. As you can see here, I guess it's double click. Yeah, yes. I do have my Pokemons, and the structure here is a little bit different. So right now, beside the basic information that is my ID, I also have the key and the version of the document. And basically, what did I do? I just switch the provider and I'm able to do this basic operation. So if I return to my code again, so let's use this way here. Hopefully it will work. Rule number 1. So where are you? My ID. Okay, I found you. So right now, what I'm gonna do next is, of course, I need to show one more. So I come to Files, Microprofile, and then I will do the same thing with Couchbase documentation configuration. And of course, return here, execute this database. So as you can see here, I create my faker, then I did the injection, then I insert to return everything for me. So select Pokemons and so on. So I'm going to open here a new browser. So as you can see, it's also different here. So what I need to do, I need to do a select star from uh, Pokemon. Hopefully it will work. And as you can see, the structure, the structure is a little bit different, as you can see, but the concept is exactly the same. So I'm searching the Pokemon where it provides an ID, a location, and the name. In terms of APIs, what I'm doing, I'm communicating to the API. This API is translating to a NoSQL database, and this translation happening on NoSQL in NoSQL database layer. If you think in analogies, if you enjoy to do analogies, and it's normal that you already know about relational database, think more about relational database with Jakarta persistence or JPA. We do have the mapping with a couple annotations and entity manager. We do have the communication layer that will receive some database structure. And then we move this information to the database itself. What we're doing here is exactly the same idea. So we are taking the NoSQL database, the mapping that is the same. We are switching the provider, and based on the switching, I can use any NoSQL database that I wish to use. Pretty simple. Okay, that is the first step. So what I'm gonna do next is I'll return to MongoDB. But hopefully you got an idea. So everything that I will show on MongoDB, I can do on three database. That session will be the communication internally. So with ArongDB, it will execute Arong query language that I showed to you. With Couchbase is Nickel, that is specific database language for Couchbase. That's pretty much looks pretty similar to relational database SQL, and MongoDB has the MongoDB query, so it's much closer to JSON filter and things like this. But what matters is I don't need to go deep on that. So I do have my Pokemons, I do have my templates. What can I do? I can run queries here. So I did the select, and I have a couple options. For example, I usually prefer to use the template with Fluent API. And what does mean with Fluent API? The idea of Fluent API is to make it easier and safe to do queries inside my application. For example, here, I do have my select, and I don't need to memorize the next step because the API itself will show for me each one is my next step. So as you can see here, I have my where, I have my limit and skip. So give the point that I want to run a query where I want to have my where, location, or the name is equals Pikachu. So I will do where here, where, oops, not you, my location equals, let's take one place here. I'm not a huge fan of Pokemon. Sorry for that. I'm more Dragon Ball Z person. Next time I will try to run with Dragon Ball Z instead of Pokemon, but you got the idea. Where I will run location equals Evo Grand City, or the name of the Pokemon is equals Pikachu. And then, of course, I able to use and I able to do the negation process. I can use later than, greater than, and so on. So the idea is to make the query um, safer as possible for you. So I do have my Pokemon here. I will run again. And right now, what I showed to you, I did the query by location or the name. And as you can see here, I do have two Pokemons. One is Tentacruel, that is from Ivor Grand City. And of course, we do have the main character in the cartoon, that is Pikachu. So I returned both. So that's the idea. So what I'm doing here is doing the query by name. Of course, what you can do is also the delete, exploring the Fluent API. So you can do the delete, Pokemon, class, and then the query. Or what else you can do is, given that we want to return by ID, so template, find by the class, and then the ID. Okay. So I will take the Pikachu ID here. Okay, you're right. So if it's present, I will return the Pikachu. So I will put a comment here. I will delete anyway, and then execute my query. So where are you? If present. Oh yes, I put Tito equals ID here. So my bad on it. Let's execute again. And right now, what I have my Pikachu located in Undertale town. Done. You can do query by Fluent API. Oh yeah, Max, I saw that. Thank you. You can also, if you wish, you can use a query by design, query by text actually. The document template itself does not support this. However, what you can do is explore the specialization. For example, in document template, you can do have the JNoSQL document template, right? And I can take here and execute my query. So I can have my query here. Okay, for some reason, uh, the assistant wants to return Pikachu. So let's make it happy, return Pikachu. So what did I do here? I did a select star from Pokemon where the name equals Pikachu, where I will return Pikachu here. I have a couple of Pikachu, so one from Undella Town, Viridian, and Floramon Town. So I have 3 Pikachu. Okay, but supposed to be different. Remember that every time they're running, I'm including more random Pokemons. So the value is not the same. That's why I'm returning more different values of Pikachu, for example. Okay. So I can do query by here. The issue is, I mean, if I do any kind of mistake, like I forget the equals or I forget some syntax, I will throw an exception on my syntax that had explanation. So here, so line number 1 is space number 33 because missing the input for name. So it has some syntax explanation in the exception, but it's not safe like um, the Fluent API because if you do something wrong, the code won't compile. And of course, what else you can do is to create prepared statements. So I came here, so where name is name, instead of query, I will return my prepare, where I will return my prepared statement, and then I will do my bind. So the name, okay, let's do it with Pikachu. I realize that you love too much Pokemon. So I will take my result here and then run my for it and finally do the system output in the end. So I did my query, select star from Pokemon where the name with prepared statement, then did the execute the binding and finally print out the informations. Let execute again. Of course, with more Pokemons. I mean, every time more 100 is coming. And right now, I have Undella, Viridian, Floaroma, Aquadort, Solisalon, and Pallet Town. I guess this one here comes from the first season, right? I'm not familiar with Pokemon, my bad on it. But what did I do? I did the query in Explore the Pokemon with string with Fluent API. Is up to you to decide each one you want to use. Besides that, what else you can do is to explore the power of repository with Jakarta Data. It is specification, strongly um, inspired by Spring Data, where I can create a single repository and based on that, do my connection. So I will come here. I will come into my um, application. Let me see. So I will have my Pokemon repository and I will extend almost pageable repository. So yeah, you got it right. And this pageable repository will have two parameters. The first one is my entity type, and the second one is my ID type, where I can use. So based on that, I can use Pokemon repository right now. I don't need to do anything else. It's ready to go. So what else I need to come here? I will right now create a new class. So I will use the power of copy and paste. So app number 2. I will do the injection of no, no, I don't want you. Get out. Pokemon repository. Now you can help me. Oh, okay, thank you. So I'm injecting the Pokemon repository to do my operation. As you can see, I just do have my interface. And based on this interface, I don't need to handle anything else. And I can create even new methods that I don't need to care about the implementation itself. So for example, I will create a list by the name, exactly like my assistant suggests. Thank you for that. So I'm doing the find by name where using the name. Then I come here to my app. I will use my repository here where I use the save methods. Then I will take my repository, find my by name, and guess what? Pikachu again. So I do the injection of my repository. I select, I saved, and now I'm able to run. Let's see. So I got an exception here. Why? Because I do have a couple of implementations, as you can see. So I have with key value, I have with uh, my document itself. What do I need to do? I need to explore the qualifiers because I need to define each one I want to use. So I'm saying that I want to use my document qualifier of documents. And now I'm doing some specialization. So I don't want to use the key value here. I want to use the default of documents. So right now I saved again. And then, as you can see, we have more Pikachus to make my assistants happier this way. Otavio, but you are using a lot of Java C, but how does it work in web service application? So you might have a Pokemon service, right? Pokemon service. So you might define this one here as application scopes. And then you will inject the Pokemon like this. Or you can define by constructor or just do the injection here. So inject. And then define the qualifier. So I will define my qualifier. On this case, document, or I can come here, database, the type document. Yes. Thank you. I just don't know if it's polite or not using this kind of thing. So should I say thank you for the assistance or not? That is a good question. So database. So right now I'm using the qualifier. So I'm qualifying for using document. How if I want to use, no, don't insist. If I want to use key value, you can use key value. And if I do have two different implementation of NoSQL database, it's fine. You can define the name of that using the database qualifier. Okay? So what did I show for you right now? So we do have the repository where I'm using single interface and I don't need to do the implementation. I can define the qualifier here in case that I have multiple implementations that you probably don't use. And I did a couple of operations with a templates class. And that was the idea, to make easier for us. So I do have my record with Pokemon with a couple of annotations. So entity to define entity, ID to define ID, column to define the field that go to the database. And based on this annotation, I walked through three different NoSQL databases, AroundDB, MongoDB, and Couchbase. I'm able to do the template, so the more generic operations, and then with document template as well. Just to remember you, the template is the highest level of template operation. Then we have several implementations. So template is the basic to any NoSQL database. And then we have specialization based on the types, document type, column type, graph type, and key value type, or templates on this case. On document template, I can have multiple specialization. On this case, I do have AroundDB template where I have the syntax to work with AroundDB if I wish directly, instead of use the standard way with JNoSQL, MongoDB, Couchbase, and so on. So if everyone will have your specialization if it does make sense. Then we went through the Pokemon repository that's based on Jakarta, right? Jakarta Data. And I did the same thing. So I did the same operation. So I have my repository, I'm able to do several operations. And the only thing that I need to do is to switch the provider. If I have a single one, I don't need this. But once I have a couple, what did I do? I put this provider. And just remember we also have a specialization here. So the data repository belongs to the specification, the query repository to the basic operation, the pageable repository to do the operation with pagination, and finally the specialization under the NoSQL itself. So we do have our MongoDB repository, Couchbase repository, and MongoDB repository. Why? Because if I'm gonna use our MongoDB repository, I can use Arango query language. I can use Nickel. I can use any specific behavior that belongs only to MongoDB. Of course, everything has a trade-off in software engineer. This API is not an exception. If you go to AronDB, you're not able to switch, especially because there is no AronDB, Arango query language to MongoDB or Couchbase. So if you want to learn in easy to switch, until pageable repository, fine. If you want to use particular behavior, you can go through the database repository, but it might be harder to switch between these providers. That is the idea of Jakarta Data, where I have my business layer, my entity, my repository, and then my implementation that, as you can see, I don't even need to care about it. I don't even to know about it. So the data comes from SQL, NoSQL, and web service. That is all for today. Hopefully you enjoy. I guess there is one question here. Okay, there's one question from Gregor. How do you handle version conflicts and dependence of database adapters? For example, JSON. On this case here, let's return to where are you, ID? Come on. On this case here, yes, it's file. I got lucky because I do have the JSON API and everybody is using JSON, Jackson as JSON processor. On real world, we usually have just one adapter. So as you can see here, I have MongoDB as a dependency, I have Couchbase as a dependency, I have AronDB as a dependency. The dependency itself is handled by Maven or Gradle, but when it does have any conflict, what I try to do is use the power of standards. Therefore, the specification itself, the implementation itself, does not provide any implementation of JSON. But yes, something bad might happen. I mean, if 3 or 4 different databases use the same version, the same library with different versions. But as I said, we usually have one single application with a single NoSQL database. I mean, I cannot imagine a scenario where you are working with AronDB, MongoDB, and Couchbase on production in a single application. Does that answer your question, Gregor? Please let me know. Okay. Is there any questions? If not, thank you. It was awesome. I hope that we enjoy. And see you soon. So I have my
Thank
Twitter, my email. So go ahead.
Yes, no, thank you very much, Octavio, for your wonderful presentation. And just a quick reminder that we are always looking to book some more Jakarta Tech Talks in the fall. So I'm going to put a little link in the chat. Feel free to click on the chat on that link, and it will be the form for our Jakarta Tech Talks. And of course, we're always looking for your feedback. So at the end of this webinar, when we close it out, just click on the green button that pops up and let us know how you enjoyed the talk. So thank you so much. There's no other questions. And Have a wonderful day.
Have a wonderful day. Bye bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.